So my cousin recently designed a new logo for me. Thanks, Nicole. And as a payment, she asked that I carve her a wood spirit. I'm inspired to carve this spirit with a different design, giving him more of a weathered look with lots of cracks. I've had this piece of cottonwood bark set aside for a special project, and just cutting into it, I could hear this would be a beautiful piece. Cottonwood bark is interesting to carve because it grows in distinct layers. It's beautiful, but it can be really challenging because it has a tendency to flake. You could see how easy it is to peel. Layers can be as thin as a piece of paper or about as thick as cardstock. Although carving a face in bark can be challenging, I found a few techniques to really help. The first is to create a mound shape within the bark that I demonstrated at the start of the video. Then I can use my gouges to find the eye sockets and discover where the nose will fit best. Using larger gouges and chisels is helpful to make longer and defined cuts. I take time to measure all of the facial features so they'll have symmetry. While measuring, I realize this eye will be partially under the bark. Although this makes the carving more difficult, it will add a cool effect like this face is morphing out of the tree. I further refine the eye sockets and set in other features like the cheeks. Using a smaller gouge, I continue to dig out the eye sockets and reveal the outside of the nostrils. With the nose roughed out, I can begin to give it shape and set in some details. I start by using a gouge to create a stop cut under the tip of the nose. I then use a knife to cut a stop cut under the nostrils. Then I slice up to that cut. Using a small U-gouge, I start giving some attention to the eyes. I use the gouge to help create a mound shape. Setting in the top of the cheek will help set his expression. Likewise, setting in the brown line is also important for a more lifelike, expressive carving. If you're new to my instructional videos, my carving may seem sporadic, but what I've come to realize is the longer that I stay in one area, I tend to make more mistakes. Just making these few cuts under the mustache, I'm able to better visualize my next steps to make more refined cuts. Using a V-tool, I cut in the upper eyelid and the wrinkle that comes from the brow. I cut the lower eyelid and add some wrinkles, and by doing this, I'm really starting to see the vision I had for this carving. I'm happy with the placement of the features so far, so now I can commit to the placement of the mustache and start refining the shape of the nose. A razor helps create the fine line where the eyelid is hidden by the brow. I use a small U-gouge to create a dip between the eyelids. Then I sand to soften the lines. I borrow my wife's toothbrush to make sure no pieces of sand are left behind. Then I repeat on the other side. Small files come in handy for hard-to-reach areas. I'll repeat this process to both eyes until I'm happy with the depth and detail. When I create wood spirits in cottonwood, I always like to make it look like the face is blending into the outer bark. And one way that I accomplish that is by making it look like those long flowing mustache and beard is either flowing into the bark or underneath it. I love this stage of the carving because the expression changes the more I refine the mouth area. I begin laying out the beard by using gouges to find the natural flow of the bark. Smaller gouges further refine that flow and make it more hair-like. With the mustache and beard in place, I can make final detail cuts to separate the mustache, nostrils, and smile lines. This is where my vision of this spirit being part of the tree really comes to life. I carve splits where the forehead would be to make it have the appearance of a split or cracking log. Before I carve any more cracks, it's time to set in the final eye detail. Now I can continue to bring this cracking further down the face. I want the cracks to match with the flow of the beard in order to tie the top and bottom part of the carving together. The scariest part of this carving is adding the crack to the nose. I make stop cuts in order to hollow out behind the cracks. This really helps to add depth. Adding these final detail cuts is one of my favorite parts of the carving process. They help bring the carving to life and add lots of character. Some light sanding blends all of the cuts, and this carving is almost done. I remove the carving from the mount and bring it outside to use a buffer to clean off any fuzzies left behind. Blue doesn't care much for the Dremel. I also use a bit to clean up where I couldn't reach with the hand tools. I take a few minutes to refine some details that got buffed away. The finish I like to use is Harold's Feed and Wax. It definitely darkens the bark, but I love the rich colors that it helps to bring out. I let it dry overnight, but you can see some of the colors pop already. Outside, you can see the red and golden tones in this piece of cottonwood bark. It always amazes me how much carvings transform after a finish is applied, and I love the way this one came out. Shout out to my cousin Nicole for making me this awesome logo. I'm having so much fun creating my YouTube page and my Etsy pages, and having my own logo to display up there has been a real cool step for me. as I'm starting to do more wood carving. So thanks, Nicole, again. And thank you all for watching and for all the support you've shown me on YouTube so far. Make sure that you like and comment. It really does help me as I grow my channel. And I appreciate all the love you guys have been sharing. Thanks.